As the leader of the Booner Pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the f*** up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juice pumping, boys.
Welcome to Crunch Time Sports. I'm your host, Jeff Iafrate. Booner will be joining us very soon. And today, John Maakaron will be joining the show just like he does every single Wednesday. Plenty to get to. Lions offseason. We have suspension updates with the Detroit Pistons. I'll talk about that as well. We'll chop it up about some Tigers later in the show. A lot of things to get to. Hope you guys are having a great day. If you're listening, leave a 5-star review. If you're watching, hit the like button on the stream. It helps support us, helps push the stream out in the algorithm. And if you're not subscribed, then I don't know what you're doing. Subscribe. Hit the subscribe button and stay updated with all of our content covering Detroit sports. And you can get your merchandise, officialctsports.com. I see everyone in there. Donkey Kong's in there, Crazy Clown, Steve Wilds. Steve, we appreciate you guys. We got Detroit Ryans, Dennis, Shift God. The crew is here. And by the way, like I said, we're going to talk to the doc about a lot of different things today. We're going to talk to the doc about, all across Detroit sports, but we're going to be able to get the doc's opinion on his article that we talked about yesterday, which, essentially was discussing what NFL executives said about David Montgomery. So, which I think that's a big conversation. We posted a video today about it. You can go watch if you missed yesterday's show and kind of hear our opinions on it. I'm sure we'll revisit it today. I see Kamikaze in there. What's up, Kamikaze? D-Ray, what's going on, bro? First, I do want to start with the Pistons suspensions. Those got announced today. Shams, however you pronounce his name, he put out the suspensions officially. And by the way, you guys should know this because you should be following us on all social media platforms at Official CT Sports, at Official CT Pod, only on X, Official CT Sports, and everything else. But here are the suspensions officially that have been handed out to the Detroit Pistons. So, because of the scuffle the other night, you had Isaiah Stewart and Miles Bridges going at it. You had Jalen Duren and Diabate going at it. It resulted in 2 players getting suspended, both of the parties involved. Definitely not Duncan Robinson, who said F this and walked away. But Jalen Duren received a 2-game suspension. Isaiah Stewart got 7 games for the altercation. You guys have to understand it's the Draymond Green effect. Draymond Green would get suspended, and another player would get suspended for getting into an altercation, but Draymond Green would get more games because of his reputation. That's what happened to Isaiah Stewart, unfortunately. Even though you love to see him protect his guys, it's still going to happen. He's still going to get, the tougher end of this whole thing. It's just a reality. So he got 7 games, and we'll talk about the 7-game stretch he's going to miss in about a minute or so. But Jalen Duren got 2 games, which, by the way, was the least amount of games in this entire scuffle. And technically, Jalen Duren kind of started it, at least with the bitch slap, I guess you would call it. So getting 2 games from Jalen Duren is actually pretty good. And I think he could still participate in the All-Star game. So, yeah, Hornets fans are pissed, I would imagine. So, he bitch slapped Diabate and got 2 games. Miles Bridges and Musa, Diabate got 4 games. It was more of a mush. It wasn't a slap, but a bitch slap sounds way better. Sounds cooler. He basically mushed. I like to say he bitch slapped him. It sounds way cooler. But he got 2 games for it. And I think it's because he did it and walked away and wasn't trying to egg on the situation. I think after that, everyone else was approaching Jalen Duren, trying to fight him, like Miles Bridges and Diabate. Diabate had to be held back, and he still tried fighting through to get after him. I think Jalen Duren, and rightfully so, just kind of was like, all right, I'm cool. We're walking away. But then, he wasn't going to let a man walk up on him, and Miles Bridges did swing at him first, so he had to respond there. But these suspensions, nothing surprising to me. This is standard. This is what was always going to happen. And, it is what it is. Now, Isaiah Stewart's going to miss, and we had Flannel Sam on yesterday, and Flannel was upset at just the fact that Isaiah Stewart got involved because he came off the bench. That's also another part of it, by the way. He came off the bench to defend Jalen Duren. he's going to miss 7 games. In the stretch he's going to miss, like Flannel Sam put yesterday, is a pretty important stretch. I mean, even though we all love Isaiah Stewart, we love him backing his teammates, let me show you guys the games that Isaiah Stewart's going to miss. And I'll talk about the impact of him not being there, but these are the games, okay? So there's some big games coming up here. These are playoff teams in the East and playoff teams in general. You have at the Toronto Raptors, at the New York Knicks, at the Chicago Bulls. It's not really a tough game, but at least you get the Ivy matchup there, so that'll be good. Versus the San Antonio Spurs, versus Oklahoma City Thunder, versus the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then at Orlando Magic. So, I mean, we're talking about really 6 of these 7 games are pretty tough games, or at least competitive games. And you never know. Maybe the Bulls can bring some spark because Jalen, you got the Jaden Ivey stuff. I don't know. But it is a tough stretch of games. I mean, no one's denying that. They are, I think, 3-1 without Isaiah Stewart this year, if I'm not mistaken. But that doesn't minimize the impact he has on a game-to-game basis. They're going to miss. I mean, he's one of the best interior defenders in basketball, so they're going to miss him. There's no question about it. And, if Isaiah Stewart were to get into, I don't know, another altercation, it would be much more of a heavier suspension. So he can't really afford that. So Isaiah Stewart, I'm sure teams are going to try and piss him off. He just can't lose his cool through the rest of the season. I mean, you just can't afford it because they're going to hand out an even bigger suspension. Again, if you want a reference, go look at Draymond Green. He suffers this with the Warriors. He's been suffering it for years. He gets heavy suspensions given his reputation, and Draymond's done some, dirty things. Love Draymond, but he's done some dirty things on top of getting into altercations and being a shit stirrer. But yeah, you can't afford. I mean, 7 games, cool. Let's say you go 3-4 down this stretch, worst case scenario. It just can't happen again. I mean, we're talking about seeding in the East, so there's no doubt this is going to be a very important stretch of games for them without Isaiah Stewart. So Paul Reed, time to play a lot of minutes. Okay, so there's the suspensions. Let me know what you guys think of it. Fair, not fair? What'd you think of all of it? Are they going to miss Isaiah Stewart? How much are they going to miss him? Because those are all relevant. By the way, the Twisted Squat Cobbler, what a name. We need someone who doesn't play at all to take over Stewart's role. Yes. Actually, that is a thing. That is a thing in the NBA. There are players that don't play a lot that end up taking on that enforcer role because they know if I get suspended, it's not really going to matter. That is the thing. A lot of teams have those guys. There's not really fighting in the NBA anymore, but yeah, Isaiah Stewart's more. And when he first got into the league, there was more development, and he was getting into some altercations when he was chasing LeBron around. He wasn't quite the player he is today. Draymond Green, obviously, when he was getting suspended, he's a Hall of Fame player, so it hurt the Warriors a lot. But yeah, I agree with you. Ideally, it would be someone that doesn't really play at all. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that. All right, let's get to the Dan Skipper stuff. That's Lions news. The Lions world. Dan Skipper is now a part of the Lions coaching staff. This came out this morning, which, by the way, is pretty important. We posted on Crunch Time. Booner also sent out a tweet. Let's read his tweet. Dan Skipper's being hired on the Detroit Lions staff, according to Rachel Hopmayer. Hopmayer. Obviously, she's the credit, by the way, for the news. Obviously, would assume he's going to be an assistant O-line coach helping out Hank Fraley. Love the Lions bringing him back. Hank Fraley won't be in Detroit forever. Learn, Skip, learn. And you know what? The Lions, I guess, could have done this with David Blau. They didn't. But it is a thing where former players retire and become coaches on that same staff. So it doesn't surprise me that Dan Skipper's back. He's going to be helping out the offensive line and work with Hank Fraley. He obviously has a familiarity with all the players they have. Even if they bring in unfamiliar guys, people, and this is what's hilarious to me about this whole thing. If he's going to be hired, there had to be an interview process. So clearly in the interview, Dan Skipper stood out to some degree. Okay. I'm not saying Dan Skipper is someone that is going to go up to Penei Sewell and be like, hey, bro, let me teach you a few things because I know better. Hank Fraley, one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL, wasn't a great offensive lineman. He was fine, but it's not like he was a Hall of Fame caliber player. In Stoutland out with the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, he's been with the Eagles for 11, 12 years. You don't have to be a great player to be a great coach. That's a fact. Look at Dan Campbell. Wasn't a great tight end. He had moments. He's a great head coach. So first off, I'm not going to assume that Dan Skipper's going to be a crap coach because he wasn't a great player. To play the positions he played, he had to play left tackle, guard, and both tackles. Actually, you got to be smart. Obviously, you have to understand not only the scheme you're in, but understand the assignment of multiple different positions. So I want to make sure I give Dan Skipper that credit. Like, I don't think the guy's an idiot, clearly. And, people would say, well, this is, favoritism and, I guess not nepotism, but a form of it because he was a player for them. I mean, they could have did it with David Blau. And if I'm not mistaken, I think David Blau joined his first job was with the Commanders, assistant quarterback coach. So it wasn't even with the teams he retired for. He was a quarterback and working alongside an offensive coordinator with Ben Johnson and Kevin O'Connell, but his first coaching gig wasn't with those teams. So it doesn't always guarantee that. So congrats to Dan Skipper. Okay. This is, to me, like, I'm happy for him. I don't know how it's going to work out. Clearly, if it doesn't, they'll get rid of him. But don't sleep on Dan Skipper's ball knowledge. I'm just saying, even though he wasn't some electric, Hall of Fame, top of the league talent, you saw him coaching right after he retired from the NFL, hopped right into coaching, started coaching college players. So I think he has clearly some value. And Hank Fraley, to Booner's point, the biggest thing I wonder is, I don't know how long Hank Fraley has before he gets more offensive coordinator hires like he's been getting in the past. So it's a good point. Maybe it's someone that you can kind of groom to take over for Hank Fraley to be the O-line coach. I don't know. Again, I'm not sure how it's going to work out, but I understand it. I do. So congrats to Dan Skipper, man. It's good news. I was shout out to Spencer, who's cutting my hair today. I went and got my hair cut, and he was like, what is Dan Skipper going to teach Penei Sewell? I mean, fair, but what is Sean McVay going to teach Matthew Stafford? Well, Sean McVay at the time, or even Jared Goff when he first got into coaching. You know what I'm saying? Obviously now with Matthew, it's different. But with Jared, when he first got into coaching, these guys know what they're doing. That they know what they're doing. Sometimes it's easier to explain than it is to do. Okay, so I think Dan Skipper can probably explain things and he understands technique, even if he can't do it to the level that other guys can. So don't sleep on Dan Skipper being at least a pretty good offensive line coach. Shout out Spencer, man. He took care of me today. So we'll see how it works. We'll see what happens with that. We will. I don't know how it's going to look. I really don't. Let's see. Twisted Squat Cobbler says our coaches block better than our players. Yeah. He also said AG stole Rex's son from us, and I haven't heard a word. Yeah, that's another thing. And I think they didn't give him because he took a promotion, didn't he? Because Seth Ryan, he is the pass game coordinator of the New York Jets. Yeah, he wasn't going to get that here. He's trying to move his way up to be an OC. So, good luck, Seth Ryan. Jets is a tough place to work with and work for with Aaron Glenn, but he took a better job. The Lions weren't going to offer him a pass game coordinator job. They just weren't. You have Mike Kafka and Drew Petzing. He wasn't going to be in that offensive. He wasn't going to be in that room. So that's the reason why he left. I'm sure he would want to stay instead of going to the New York Jets. Donkey Kong says a proven DC would be better. Yeah, you ain't lying, man. You ain't lying. This Calvin Shepard thing's getting more interesting by the day. It really is. And I think the Super Bowl has me even more worried about it, to be honest, than I was prior. Because Mike McDonald, watching some of that Super Bowl back and watching breakdowns about that Super Bowl and how the defense actually executed, it's like watching a different level to me. All due respect to Calvin. Like that, it was incredibly detailed, incredibly disciplined. And I think the key to that is, and I don't think it's all on Calvin. John Schneider's done such a good job of putting that defense together. Like that's why Brad, it's not, I go at Calvin a lot, and I think they should upgrade the defensive coordinator, but I think it's just as much, on Brad Holmes from a personnel standpoint, because I think the Lions have better individual players, but the Seahawks have all 11 guys play collectively, and they have good players at pretty much every position. Good to great. They just do. Like, there's not too many holes you're looking at on the Seahawks defense. I mean, you're just it's just not the case. The Lions, you can be like, well, we're gonna pick apart your corners. Like, go look at the Seahawks corners, man, and go check the depth chart online. Go look at what the Seahawks have at corner, and compare that to what the Lions have at corner. Like, corner, even the Patriots. Like, I know the Patriots, they crap the bed, but still, Christian Gonzalez, dude, that man is a freak. Christian Gonzalez, and it's ironic. Colton brought this up today on Lions Collective, which you guys can watch on YouTube, Wednesday, 6 p.m. The Lions were one pick away from getting Devon Witherspoon because he went to the Seahawks, and they probably, think about it, they probably would have taken Devon Witherspoon over Jahmyr Gibbs, which would have also been Sam Laporta. So think of it like that. Would you guys rather have Devon Witherspoon or Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta? Okay. The other thing is, which, by the way, I would probably still have Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta. But the other point is they could have got Christian Gonzalez, but he was taken right before Jack Campbell. So both those corners, and look how great they are. Obviously, Terry Darnold's a Lion, but we'll see how that works out. ETN says Gonzalez single-handedly kept the Patriots in that game. Yeah, he limited JSN. I mean, he did his job. He was incredible. Let's bring on Boone. How we doing, Boone?
Wow, doing good. How are you doing?
You know what? I'm doing great. We're talking.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I saw it in the chat. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just at. What's the hoodie? Is that someone said, is that a Bears hoodie?
No, it's not. It is not a Bears hoodie. It's a Iafrate construction hoodie.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah, no, it is not.
How about that?
That would be diabolical.
Yeah, I saw someone in the chat just do that, and I was like, wait a second. Please tell me this isn't true. What have I walked into? This guy's really just changing on me.
That'd be terrible. That would be. I would never do that. Imagine that narrative.
Oh my Lord.
What do you think of the Dan Skipper news? What do you think of Dan Skip joining the coaching staff? I put your tweet up on there.
Yeah. First off, I want to ask this. I was listening to you talk about it a little bit. Are there people that are mad about the Dan Skipper move?
I don't know.
I heard you say the word nepotism and that. Like, are there people out there being like, he doesn't deserve this job? He only got it because he's Dan Skipper and he was.
I was just assuming. I was just like, there's probably people out there that are saying this.
Okay. I didn't know if I think honestly this is and I've ran our socials for 2 years. When we were at Woodward, I ran their socials for 3 years. I think this might be out of the 5 years that I've ran social media, this might be one of the most highest hit rates of a breaking news thing. I think there was 100% of people that I saw that were all in, and every single tweet, everything about Dan Skipper, people love. Like he's like I don't know, like I don't even know, like the mascot for the Lions. That's what it feels like. It's like anytime there's Dan Skipper news, people just like fall to their knees.
It's because he represents the common man. He's not common, but he's just like he's not Penei Sewell. He's just a relatively normal player in NFL standards, and he's gritty. He's everything the Lions like.
Yeah, and I think you were bringing up some good points about the coaching and everything, but I think what people tend to like forget a little bit is like with coaches, like a guy like Dan Skipper. Dan Skipper, how many years did he play in the NFL? Like 10 years? He never was like a full-time starter. He was essentially, he was with the Lions forever, and he was essentially always just a backup role guy, right? And he got put into spots where, hey, you need a guy to step in, he steps in. You need a guy in a special spot, he'll step up in that special spot. And when you see coaches, typically the best players on football teams or on any sports team, basketball, whatever it is, typically the best players in the world don't become coaches. Like, that's just not them, right? Like, the reason they're the best in the world at what they do, and a lot of people are going to hate to hear this, it's because of just pure talent. Like, they have the talent. And a lot of these guys, dude, I've worked with so many different players and stuff that are really good. Guess what they don't have? They're not as smart, or they're sometimes as the backups or anything, because the backups, they don't have the talent, so they have to make up for it. How? Learning the game and finding all of the ins and outs, how to play the game the right way, how to go about it. They have to watch more film than a starter because they're, you know what I mean? They're obviously not as talented. So they have to find a way to outwork and show up. That's a guy like Dan Skipper. And that's why you see like a guy like Dan Campbell, who he wasn't the most talented tight end, but what did he do? He outworked everyone. And I'm sure he watched a bunch of film. And when he was done, that kind of translated into coaching. And I think it's the same thing with Skip. I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, like you brought up the comment of like, well, what is he going to teach Panay? I can guarantee, obviously, he's not going to go out there and be like, Panay, you have to do this. But I'll tell you what, if he's the assistant O-line coach, guess what he's going to be doing all week? Skip's going to be watching a lot of film for Hank Fraley and that offensive line, and he's going to make sure that Panay Sewell is prepared, when it comes to the film and different breakdowns and things when it comes to Sunday's game. And Skip's going to have a massive piece with that. And I'll tell you, I'll one up all of you guys with this, and I'll say this. I think when Hank Fraley eventually is going to get an offensive coordinator position, Dan Skipper, depending on how long he has under Hank Fraley, Dan Skipper's going to be a head O-line coach in the NFL one day. Like, he will. And I'm not just saying that because he's Skip and we all love him, but like when you have an opportunity for a guy like this who has, been in the trenches as long as he was. And again, Dan Skipper, no offense to him, he's a great dude. Probably not as talented as a Panay Sewell, probably not even close. But he probably found what, he had to use coaching to get to that spot, to be able to at least get opportunities in his career. So I think he's going to be a really good coach. I think a guy like him, and you could tell he wants to be taught, and he wants to learn, and you could always tell that from him and his passion for the game. That's the number one thing. Like, do you remember the Dallas game when he was like screaming out at the refs? Like, man is passionate about the game of football. So I think he's going to do well. And that might be the Hank Fraley replacement in a few years when Hank Fraley gets a new job.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe he works out. He's really good at what he does. I mean, he clearly loves coaching. Usually players, like to what you were saying earlier, if you're a really great player, you probably made a lot of money. And a lot of people that have a lot of money like that don't want to do all the work to become coach. Like, just don't. I got a lot of money, bro. I'm done. I'm chilling. Like, Tom Brady ain't going to be a coach. He's being a part owner. Like, like he's cool with that. Dan Skipper, on the other hand, we'll see. We'll see with it. But what'd you think? I talked also about the suspension thing. You have any thoughts on that before we get to our 8:30 segment? What do you think of the suspensions? Because I was mentioning earlier, and I commented on our Instagram. I just think it's funny that Jalen Duren. I understand it, but I'm just making a joke that he got 2 games for basically starting the brawl. I mean, he got 2 games.
I saw the term you used as well. He definitely, the term I've been using for it is he's just been mushing. He just mushed his face. He just mushed it. Draymond, actually, I watched his podcast about it, and Draymond said what Jalen Duren did is 100 times worse than slapping someone in the face, and he says it's the equivalent of spitting in someone's face because he said when you mush a grown man's face, he's like mushing a grown man's face. He's like, that's the craziest thing of all time. And I was like, I don't know if it's that, but
mushing a grown man's face is hilarious.
Yeah, when he said that, I thought that was funny. I don't know. I think the Duren one is fine. Duren really didn't, outside of the obviously starting it in that first initial, he didn't hit anyone or anything. He just mushed. So the mush feels 2 games. Okay, like he backed off and tried to de-escalate the situation right away.
He just swung back at Miles because Miles swung at him first. I mean,
and I don't even think he made contact. So I don't think that even matters. The Stu, honestly, all the suspensions, there were actually there was a lot of people on Pistons Twitter mad that Stu got 7. And I'm like, honestly, we should all just be happy that he didn't get 10 or more. I don't know. What are you mad about? Why did Stu get 7? Did anyone see what he did? I love what he did, but and at the same time as well, he's a multiple time offender of doing what he did. This is
and he came off the bench.
And he came off the bench, and he was grabbing Miles's hair. It was, even if he didn't come off the bench, he's probably still getting 7 because he's a multiple time offender. So people mad about the 7, dude, you should be thanking the NBA for only doing 7 games because I was expecting way more. Dude, I saw there was a really big time NBA player, former, who was a scuffle guy. Might have been DeMarcus Cousins or someone, was he thought that he was going to get 20.
20 games?
Yeah, and I was like, that's shocking. That's a quarter of a season.
I think it would have been 20 games if he knocked him, dude. He hit the guy and knocked him out or something.
Yeah. What's crazy too is there were players on the Hornets because the altercation was by their bench. There was players that came off their bench. Like LaMelo Ball ran off their bench and got in the middle of all of it. And he was on the bench at the time.
Was he breaking it up?
I think LaMelo was getting after it.
Because if he was breaking it up, then I
think
that.
But the automatic rule in the NBA, though, if you come off the bench, it's a one game automatic. So he comes off the bench, doesn't even get a game. So it's like now they're not even abiding by their own rules. Because you look at the Pistons bench, the coach. So there's always a coach that's waiting, like holding guys back, like do not go. Stu somehow got by, but
they just don't want a Malice at the Palace situation where it's like.
I saw today that someone tweeted out and said Stu got more games than Ben Wallace did for Malice at the Palace.
Really?
Yeah, Ben got 6 games. Stu got 7 today.
Oh. That's dude, that is wild.
How funny is that?
That is different times, man. Different times. That was that back then they're like guys just they weren't letting him, but guys were just squaring up, dude. I mean,
I think they should let him square up again. Big Cat on part of my take, he actually has a really funny take because like fan interactions all the time, like KD's getting into it with fans. He said once a year, each NBA player gets one pass to where if a fan's heckling them, they can call them out and bring them out to the middle of the floor, boxing gloves, one-on-one, one time a year.
Oh, that's funny.
And the fan has to do it too, because if you're going to talk to him, like, hey, that you got to know that might be an option for a player if they have one of their. I think that would be so funny.
How many NBA players are there in the league? 450, it says. So you get 450 fans that could just get squared up with. Like I'm all for it. I'm all for it, dude. Hey, listen. I've never been like a, like if I ever, if I get courtside seats, I'm not going to be like jawing people. I don't really care. I mean, I'll just be watching the game. But if you're really about that and you want to talk, it would be kind of cool to be like,
imagine KD looks at you and was like, now you like hit a red button, boom.
Yeah, everything changes.
Whole arena, like sirens, like,
Yeah, that's what happens. I think people try and do that with different players, but once those players are about the smoke, things change. They don't really know. They're like, all right. I think they did that with LeBron before. They've done it with a lot of players. And like Russell Westbrook, another one. Remember they used to do it with Russ, and Russ would go back at him, and they'd be like,
oh,
chill.
Yeah. Russ would go back and forth with fans all the time.
Like, dude, Russ is 6'3", 200 pounds. Like, you don't want to fight that guy. He's incredibly athletic. Like, you don't want that. Russell
Westbrook would destroy some people, dude.
Yeah, you don't want that guy is built for that type of stuff. You don't want that. You just don't. All right, we have the doc in about 15 minutes. I want to get into our Lions draft discussion. We're going to rank the top 5 position groups you want the Lions to draft in round 1. So start thinking right now. Different positions you want the Lions to draft. We're going to come up with our top 5, and then we'll have the doc on. But first, got to hear about our friends from Sleeper. We'll see you in a minute. I've interrupted the show to tell you about our friends over at Sleeper, the best fantasy app out there. You guys know I've been telling you about Sleeper Picks, but today I'm going to tell you about Team Picks, which is a new feature on Sleeper. You can go with your favorite team, depending on who you root for. In my case, I'm going to go with my Detroit Pistons to win the championship because they have great odds to do so. They're introducing this new addition to the app to allow you to ride with your favorite team, which is awesome. You can go game to game. You can go to win the championship. In the NBA, you can go to win the West, to win the East. You can go across different sports. It's very simple. So not only does Sleeper have fantasy, they have Sleeper picks for players, but now they have team picks. So go participate and play along. And shout out to our friends at Sleeper for always taking care of the channel and their customers. Now, let's get back to it. All right, top 5 positions in the NFL draft, which, by the way,
first round, yeah.
Yeah, first round picks, top 5 positions you'd like to see the Lions address. Now, we're not doing the old Brad Holmes best player available, but we're going off need, I'm assuming, because we don't know who's going to be there. So these are our preferred positions. Do you want to start from 5 to 1? And go back.
I think we should start with 1 because honestly, I think 1 and 2 are the exact same for both of us. And I think for Lions fans, If you're doing like, hey, in the first round, these are the top 5 position groups that you want. I think every person, the 1 and 2 would be a unanimous 1 and 2, depending on what you have first. I know some people might have a different taste in what they want for the first pick. But I think that's, you know what I mean? Because then, so I mean, I'm just going to go, I'll do the first 2 first. I think my 1 and 2 is just number 1, obviously, offensive tackle. I think with all the offensive tackles that are in this draft class, especially in the first round, and again, this is a first round. You're kind of wish list for top 5 in the first round. Even if you trade back like you did in your mock draft to 19, or even if you want to trade back to 28, 30, whatever it is, there's just such a depth of tackle in this draft class that you would like. That's obviously a need, whether it's Taylor Decker retires or not. That's obviously a need in the future for you. And you would be dumb at where you're sitting at to just not, as good as this draft is with tackles, to not get one. Take advantage of a good tackle class.
Yeah, I agree. If it's a right tackle, left tackle, I really don't care. Just draft a tackle. And yeah, defensive end is number 2 for obvious reasons. Need a pass rush.
Yep.
We've been talking about it for years. And, if they do end up drafting a defensive end, I'm not going to be mad at it. It just depends on who the player is. I think there's players coming out that you can really like. I think there's some guys in the first and second on at tackle and at edge where you would really like. So I'm not too picky. I guess it just depends who's there. I think those 2 are like tied for 1. I really don't care, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I would prefer tackle more so, just because I think you can. I just think there's more. In free agency, there's more options at edge than there are tackle in free agency, especially for the price. Do you know what I mean? Like last year, you saw so many teams pick up, edge rushers under 10 million, where if you want to get like, say Taylor Decker retires, if you want to get like a legit left tackle or move Panay and get a right tackle, you're going to have to pay an arm and a leg to get someone at that level.
Yeah, he's still in, there's still other positions. Who do you have at 3?
Do you want to go 1, 2, 3, say it at the same time?
We're probably gonna have the same position, I would assume.
Do you think so? What side of the ball is yours?
Offense.
Yeah, mine is 2. Ready?
Now, are we doing? This is just in an ideal world, because I don't know, like, all the players that'll be worth the picks. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not basing my preference off who will be in the first round. I'm just going most important positions I would like them to address in the. Does that make sense?
Well, I think it should be also who's in the draft, because like there's a lot of tackles in this draft. That's why I have about 1. I think it depends on, you have to base it off of who as well is available, because it is first round. It's not like just in general, who do you need? That would be like free agency and offseason.
Yeah, no, I guess you know what? Then I'm changing it. Then it's on defense.
For it to be mine as well, I guess, is offense.
Because I don't. Who's yours then?
I just a guard, interior. I think there's only maybe like 1 or 2 maybe guards that could go in the first round. The Penn State guard, like if you could end up, like if you can't get one of these tackles, just adding to that offensive line. I would rather the last couple of years, obviously, like you went corner in the first and second round. You've gone safety in the second round. You've gone tight end in the second round. You've gone linebacker in the first round. Like you've made all these moves. You've gone running back in the first round already. Like you've invested a lot of position groups in the first round. I think interior guard, if there's one that you feel, especially like that Penn State kid, if you trade back and you get him at like 27, 28, I think it's a steal. I would do that, especially for like if you're talking about need.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, there are some.
Say the Penn State kid, because I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's a tough one.
Hard. There's also the guy, I think, where is he? Yeah, the Penn State Vega.
You got this.
I don't know. I'm not even going to try that. Yeah, 6'4", 330.
Still, he'll be a good interior man.
Is this, by the way, is this this is going to have to be a trade back scenario?
The interior?
No, me. What I'm about to say.
Oh, you? Okay, yeah.
But it's first round. I would say another linebacker.
who would you trade back or trade down to get
So
first round?
or trade up if you want to get Sonny Styles. Sonny Styles at Ohio State is a beast. He's projected like the top 13, 14 or something like that. There's another one out of Texas, Anthony Hill Jr., who you could trade back and get. CJ Allen from Georgia, another good one. I just think right now the only player I like at linebacker is Jack Campbell, and I'm worried about it. So I wouldn't mind if they took a linebacker. I really wouldn't.
Okay. I guess if there's a guy that's like a first round grade, like a Sonny Styles, I honestly, Jeff, I like that to where if you're like, we can move to get if a Sonny Styles drops because.
Yeah, you trade up for him and grab him, I wouldn't be mad.
Yeah. Because my fourth is kind of, again, these are top five. Like, obviously, offensive line is at the top and edge is at the top. So you have to start digging deep and with players that would be available. Mm-hmm. If this specific player starts to fall, and you might have an opportunity to go from where you're at currently, 17, up to like 12 or 13 to get this player, this would be a position group I wouldn't be mad at. And I do think some people would. I would not. But if Caleb Downs becomes available and starts to fall a little bit, safety would be one that I would not like. I wouldn't freak out about. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. You just had your essentially two all-pro safeties. One has a knee injury that no one knows what's going to happen in his career, and you have him on a massive deal. And then you also have, Brian Branch, who you might have to pay $1 billion. That's coming off an Achilles. If you get Caleb Downs, then you can move on from Brian Branch after the year. And, you have Caleb Downs, who's going to be like, you would argue, tell me if I'm wrong, Jeff, like the next type of like, when I'm not saying exact type of player, but like level of player, it's like the next Kyle Hamilton type, Yeah. And it's like you want that. And if he somehow gets to the back end of that top 10 and maybe gets out of that top 10, you pull the trigger and you just go do it.
Yeah, I have safety on here. The only thing I was wondering is what you're saying is the only safety worth taking is Caleb.
That's it. That's why I made the argument of more so just trading up.
Yeah, I would put him. I have safety at 4, but it's like I should have just put Caleb Downs. Like if you can get Caleb Downs, then I wouldn't want any other safety. But if you can get Caleb Downs, then I'm all for it in the first round. Can I throw a position at you that I've been thinking a lot about if we're going top 5, and I'm thinking of all the positions that they could take. And Lions fans are going to hate this.
Me and you might have the same one.
They're gonna
I'm gonna write it down.
Okay. Lions fans are gonna hate this. Okay, and I completely understand why. But when you hear me explain it, it will make sense. Cornerback.
Did you say quarter?
Corner. Yeah, I know.
You have to have him on the list. There's actually a couple good corners in the first round. There's the 2 kids from Tennessee that you can make an argument for. Colton Hood.
They're pissed, and I understand why. I do, but look at who they have at corner. I mean, Ennis Rakestraw. We don't know what's happening with him. DJ Reed, he didn't look good coming off the hamstring. And then Taron Arnold, we don't even know if he could. I mean, he's coming off an injury, looks good at times, but we don't know. He's not for sure starter, a budding star. Like I think corner wouldn't be a bad idea. You had Rock Yassin playing a bunch of snaps last year.
I don't hate. Like, is that my preferred position? No. Like, I would be a little upset because of I would hope that they go offensive line and D line, but I would have them on a corner at the bottom of my list. Just.
Yeah, once we're through tackle, defensive end, like I'll tell you what, I'd want a cornerback over like I don't know, you can go positional value like over a wide receiver
or
like
running back,
running back or
defensive tackle again.
Yeah, like and people are going to think of the NS and TA draft, but it's like, guys, and maybe this is the wrong way to think. You got to keep swinging. You just watch the Seahawks with good cornerback play. You just watch the Patriots, Gonzalez and Carlton Davis. You need better corners, bro. Like you just do, and I wouldn't hate it at all. May the best man play. You know what I mean?
That was the 5th.
Let him play.
That was the 5th on my list. We went O-line. Well, I put O-line at first, tackle, edge, interior offensive line, safety, and then corner. That's the And you know what? The one thing with the corner too, and I wouldn't mind if they did it even the second round. Like if they went tackle and then went corner, and there's a really good corner they like in the second round, I wouldn't mind, because I think like the one thing me and you have talked about for the last year or so is in these building is like just bring guys in to compete. Like there's always that conversation where it's like, don't draft this guy because like remember last year going into last year's draft where we did all these mocks and so many people were like, why are you drafting this position? That position's full. There's already starters there. Like a lot of people who cover the team throughout Detroit kept saying that to us. Like, oh, that, there's already a starter at that position. That hole's filled. Like, no, there's no holes filled. The only holes filled really is just quarterback and receiver and right tackle with Panay. Everyone else, you can get a linebacker. Yeah. But you need another defensive end. You could still use a defensive tackle. You could still use another linebacker. You can use a safety with the injuries now. You can use a corner. Any offensive line position you can use. You can use another tight end now with Sam Laporta, potentially his contract coming up. Like every hole is open. There's no such thing in the NFL as closed holes.
Wow. And clip that shit. Someone out there. Hold the hell! I mean,
my brain was working, and I knew that I was about to say that, and I just still went with it.
Oh, what are you on? What are you on tonight? You dirty dog, man! Damn, that's a double pause. That's a triple pause. You need to know Diddy. You need a lot of things there.
Oh man.
I agree with you though. You can't go into the draft with like, oh yeah, we got this player or that. But like you said, there's some you don't want to. You're not going to draft like whatever. But I can't believe I'm saying it. Like they fall in love with like some of these positions in the back of our ranking, like. They take it, and I'll be honest, like I'm trying to give Brad some benefit. I know there's some picks that piss us off, but to be honest, like the draft they drafted Jameer and Jack, no one thought they would go A, running back, B, linebacker, and they're both really good players. So it's not that Brad's not capable, it's that he hasn't done it in a couple years. But like just because he doesn't draft the position you want doesn't mean the player won't be good.
Yeah.
It just so happens that the last 2 years you haven't really seen development yet. But yeah, like if he drafts a corner or not a corner, like a linebacker again or something, or a corner, let's say, we got to see what the player is. Plus, obviously the projects pissed me off, but you're not taking a project. I
mean, I think there's like in this draft, I think like I'm looking here at like the best available, and obviously everyone has different rankings, but like. Even in the top 30, there's like 4 corners that are even more than that. I mean, you could keep going. In the top 35, there's 1, 2, 3. I could keep going here. 4, 5, 6. There's 6 corners in the top 35. So you essentially almost have 6 corners that are first round, graded based off of that or close to it. So like if you fall in love with one, and you like him more than you like maybe a tackle or an edge, and Brad does it, like I wouldn't be the happiest camper on the planet, but if he really liked it, the only issue that I would have with that, honestly, is Brad just has not been that good with evaluating corners. He really hasn't.
Like Mansour Delane, you watch
LSU? LSU, yeah. Great player. He's probably going to be the first one off the board, but again, you're at 17. I've seen mock drafts of him fall into like 13, 14. Almost 50. Like if he somehow gets to you, BPA, right? We talk about Brad, get back to BP. That's BPA almost, depending on who's on the board. Like you could argue that's BPA.
Yeah.
I would rather have a tackle.
You really could.
Give me a big fella.
Yeah, I do too, man. I'm not sure. I just want a number 1 corner. So
what would you do if they drafted like first round wide receiver? Like, what if they took Mackay in the first round?
I would run into oncoming traffic, probably.
What if they got like Cornell Tate?
I would need you to call. I would need to get off stream.
It is. We would honestly. We would probably throw the camera. It is crazy to me that like just last year that Brad used he used assets to go get another weapon when you already had so many good weapons, man. Like it's every time I hear that, it just shocks me. Like it's like there's no way.
Oh, it does. It shocks you. That's weird. I like the guy, Isaac Tesla, the guy that's supposed to be a wide receiver. He has the ability to be a wide receiver. Love
Tesla.
No, he's really good, but he's going to be wide receiver 3 for his career. Yeah, no, it's cool.
He's like going to be the 6th option on your offense for the next like 4 years.
Yeah, no, it's super sick. It's awesome. Let's bring in our good friend. Maybe he can talk some sense into us. Covers the Detroit Lions for Sports Illustrated. He's still rocking that goatee.
Yeah, honestly, it's growing on me.
He's looking good in the goatee.
No pun intended.
And he's changing up the color hats. Check his YouTube out. Detroit Lions on SI. Check his articles out. Detroit Lions on SI. He's been in the news the last 2 weeks, crushing it. Let's bring him on, Mr. John Maakaron. Johnny Mac, how we doing?
It's a beautiful Wednesday. Thank you. Yeah, it's growing on me too. It's going to be a staple, literally. I think it offsets the fact that I got the shiny dome. What's going on, fellas? Listen, I want to say this. Booner, I know you're trying to make excuses that you were working late. It's okay. You know, the missus calls. You got a couple times you got to perform. You got to do your duties, brother.
I'm a single guy out here, Doc.
Which makes it worse, Doc. Which makes
head down. I'm working, man. I'm out here working.
Don't let them fool you, Doc. Don't let them fool you. Boone's out here.
Listen, let's have a contest. Find Booner's future bride, baby. We can do it online, get a contest going, and maybe some speed dating. Speed dating. They just show up for like a minute here on the stream. You do a quick interview, and then if you like them, boom, they can stay on, and if not, cut them off.
Yeah, if you want to submit your sister, you can contact her email, and you can submit her.
Submit your sister is hilarious, dude.
That sounds really fucked up, actually, the way that just came out. You get what I mean. Doc, we have a lot to talk about today, man. I mean, we have your we want to talk about your article about Dave Montgomery that you put out, which, by the way, that's on me for the title. Corrected that.
I texted him right away, and I told him, I not explicit. I said he's going to cut your. Doc told me he's going to cut your beep off if you do that again.
So I fixed that for you, Doc. But we'll talk about that. But first, I want to get your thoughts on the Dan Skipper news that happened today. Dan Skip's joining the coaching staff, helping out Hank Fraley. I think there's a lot of people love it. I know Booner talked about it universally. People love Skip, and he's going to help out. Seems to be helping out Hank Fraley, starting his coaching career already, Doc.
Yeah, everyone's excited. Early morning report. I was like, oh, my goodness. Typically at Lines on SI, we have a story ready to go every morning at 7 a.m. And the report came from CBS Detroit. It was awesome. I was excited. And I think that, look, the coaching staff has been filled with former players. Everyone loves Dan Skipper. I think that he's really engaging. We've had a lot of opportunity to talk to him. I talked to him about NIL, talked to him about his thoughts on a bunch of other things besides football. He's really engaging. It's unfortunate his career had to end that way, but I think it'll help. Most notably, I think he can relate to Giovanni Manu and get him going a little bit. And I think that another voice in the room that understands what is expected from Dan Campbell, what's expected from the coaching staff. And when you can continue that, I think it's just great that a player that was a role player that got the most out of his talent is now on this coaching staff and hopefully can help develop some of these young guys as well. And I do think that Hank Fraley is also a coach that's got to continue to earn his keep. He's a good offensive lineman, was a great offensive lineman in the league. Now is a well-respected coach, but at the same token, you got to realize too that last year's offensive line play was not the best. And hopefully as much talent as you can add when you get a good coach that I think most, and everyone knows in the league, you got to be able to relate to the players, and players respect former players. So that's 1 foot in the door for Dan Skipper. And who's going to front on Dan Skipper? The man's 6'9". So I think he'll get a lot of respect, and he'll get these guys practicing pretty hard.
I totally agree with you, Doc. I think he's going to be a good football coach, especially offensive line. I do want to ask you here. You put out the report, and you had obviously some sources tell you about David Montgomery potentially being shopped at the NFL Combine. Can I just ask you, more into that? What your thoughts are on that, what you heard, and what you think might happen with the David Montgomery stuff within this offseason.
Oh yeah, no, thank you guys for reading, man. That's cool stuff. Here's what happened last year at the Combine. I had a lot of great dinners, man. It was cool. I met up with a couple agents. for the first time, just striking up conversation. And at the same time, I also came up to meet some executives that I started to keep in touch with, not for information, just to kind of learn about the league, how things go, what goes on at the combine, like what happens, like, because you realize, okay, if a trade's going to be made, they don't just start throwing out numbers at the draft. And I remember a video I saw at the Senior Bowl where a couple of friends that were general managers were talking, and they were just kind of going, yeah, we could be letting go of this guy. And it starts at the Senior Bowl. It's kind of where, and so I started to ask around because the combine's coming up, kind of setting my prep. I was just asking, like, just what goes on in terms of what goes on with the league, and how do general managers kind of get along, and what kind of happens. So we then got to the conversation about David Montgomery. And so when these league stuff happens where agents are all there, a lot of players are there, general managers are there, they're not going to have specific talks in regards to, hey, this is what's going to happen. But the executives feel like when they heard that Brad Holmes said that potentially it's up in the air regarding David Montgomery, they realized that he's going to have a huge market across the league if other teams want to potentially talk to Brad Holmes. And they said that they expect that at that time, with Brad Holmes talking to everybody, that they would expect that Brad Holmes is going to just have some basic conversations about what they could get if, and remember, the other side of it that I don't think I've maybe highlighted or pointed out is the Lions are all about David Montgomery. If he wants to be all in, if Drew Petzing sold him based on the initial conversations and the way it goes further, you also got to remember there's a draft, and there's a player I'm hearing that I'll tell you in a minute that the Lions are kind of liking. But if everything goes well and he wants to return, the Lions will welcome him back, but he's got an elevated contract. So there's something to work out there. He's making too much based on, I think, how they're going to use him. But the executives believe that David Montgomery will be somebody that people want to talk to the Lions about. And I think I wrote, the Lions are not have not put out feelers to trade him. There's no offers on the table. But what happens at the combine is there will be conversations to kind of know, like, if David, because what happens is with the league, and what I've started to learn is you never want to be caught surprised. So what happens is that the Lions already have a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. If David says we want to go, then you have an idea of, okay, we could go in the draft. We have a couple guys in free agency. We kind of know which teams might potentially offer us something and have an opportunity to get kind of a feel. And I think that from what I'm hearing, I think David Montgomery, it's tough. 4th, 5th rounder you could get for him initially is what people are thinking, but they expect that Brad Holmes will at least kind of understand, and it'll really pick up too at the owners meeting in the following month. So at these league meetings, and also too, you realize you're hearing the same thing is going to happen with AJ Brown. Teams are going to talk to him, talk to Howie Roseman a little bit, kind of get a sense of what they want. And it's a chance for Brad Holmes to kind of say, if there's an opportunity to trade him, because also too, before I came on, you guys said that Brad Holmes did trade those 3rd round picks. So if there's an opportunity maybe to say, hey, for example, let's say, a team makes a massive offer to Kenneth Walker and he leaves. Maybe if you've had a conversation with Schneider, like, hey, if Kenneth leaves, maybe this will be something that could be something in your interest, where you give David Montgomery a chance to depart and go to a winning team, be a feature along with Zach Charbonnet. So you kind of set the tone of knowing who might be interested and what the opportunity presents itself. But right now, as we sit, the Lions expect David Montgomery back, but you have to know, you can't just go into the draft unprepared. You have to have a contingency plan. And Brad Holmes has said multiple times, we already kind of know what teams need what by the time the draft hits, and we know who we can call if something happens. So it's something that I think that teams will talk to Brad Holmes about, and it's something that I think the Lions should entertain. If a team comes and says, hey, we'll give you a 3rd rounder, 4th rounder, you don't have it, I would consider it, because I'm hearing that, first and foremost, the Lions are wanting across the board the whole team to develop competition. They like Sion Vaky quite a bit. Not to take David Montgomery's job, but if David says, hey, I thought about it, I just don't want to be a guy that's going to have 150 less targets than Jahmyr Gibbs. And then they realize, oh man, this guy's Jahmyr Gibbs is getting paid $25 million a year. He knows his role. And if they come asking for a pay cut, he might just say, you know what, I want to go to an opportunity that's gonna suit me. And the Lions are always pro player. They're not gonna send David Montgomery to the Jets. they'll send them to a winning team if a trade comes through. But that's what goes on at these. I'm very fascinated by what goes on at the combine, and these execs indicate that a lot of these talks start happen with teams and players at the combine. And it was very interesting to learn about it. And it makes common sense. If a player is thinking about leaving and you have a player behind that you can pay cheaper, that you can get maybe close. Because remember, David Montgomery only had 750 yards. If you have Sion Vaky get like 300-400 yards and you draft Jam Miller in the 6th, 7th round from Alabama, who the Lions I think are very high on, now you have an opportunity to get some production and not have to pay a running back $9 million when you're going to pay another one $20 million.
Doc, Vaky, and I mean this respectfully, is so bad. He has the last 2 years for Vaky. If they're going to trade Montgomery, okay, whatever. If they want to save a couple million, just find his replacement in the draft then.
Yeah.
I mean, Vaky, it's like, dude, we've seen this Vaky thing. In 2 years, the guy's had 18 yards total on 2 yards a carry. Like, I mean, you saw Kyle Monangai walk in the league, Doc, and get like 800 yards. Like, if you're going to replace him, which I don't think they should, don't rely on Vaky. Just don't do it.
But Jeff, I got to tell you something. We went last year. Listen. Last year, we all screamed, "Hey, you're a Super Bowl team. Don't get Marcus Davenport." They went and paid him. And the Lions, you have to put yourself in this framework. When they draft somebody, they give them a long leash. And they obviously, Dan Campbell is patient. You realize guys like Giovanni Manu have redshirted, haven't even played, but they're going to be counted on at some point. And Dan Campbell told the media, we got to up the competition. We got to have – why did you draft him then? You didn't draft him to be a safety. He's a running back. You didn't draft him to – you don't draft players to play special teams. And eventually you got to find out, hey, we invested in you. You're going to have an opportunity. Sion Vaky will have an opportunity this year to get more touches. If he proves that he's the guy, boom. Yeah, but you're going to always look in the draft as well. And I would expect that Sion Vaky is going to continue his growth and development, have an opportunity. And listen, I have to reiterate this. The Lions love the players that they draft. And when I mean love, we all on the outside could say, cut them, trade them, leave them, boom, boom, boom. Nope. Ennis Rakestraw will have another opportunity this year. He'll be on the team. A guy like Giovanni Manu is still on the team. You signed a Marcus Davenport again after. So that if the Lions target you, you get an opportunity. That's why it's interesting that, guys that are battling that come in on the practice squad or undrafted, it's just an uphill climb because drafted guys, it's the rule of thumb. Drafted guys always get a much longer leash. And see, of course, Sion Vaky hasn't done nothing. You got Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery on the team. But in this league, teams are always looking for slight improvements, slight opportunities to get similar productivity at a cheaper rate. That's just the way it is. How are you going to pay Jahmyr Gibbs $20 million and David Montgomery 10? It doesn't work like that in the league. That's why you drafted Sion Vaky for the potential. If David Montgomery says, hey, I want out, you have somebody that you can plug in. And of course, you're probably still going to add in the draft as well.
Well, Doc, I do want to ask you, because I checked Detroit Lions on SI, because I've been talking a lot about this Max Crosby stuff, which, by the way, I do want your thoughts on the Max Crosby stuff. What is going on with Max Crosby as of late? I saw the Albert Breer report. Albert Breer gave his thoughts on it. Can you kind of give your insight to just the relationship between Max Crosby right now and the Raiders? And I know Max Crosby of the Lions would be amazing, but just kind of on the actual possibility he will be traded, because I saw him attend Clint Kubiak's press conference, but then you're seeing reports that there's actually stuff going on behind the scenes. Can you give more context to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure you keep Sports Illustrated, Detroit Lions on SI among your trusted sources. Albert Breer is one of the best. I look forward to it. I met him last year. I walked up to him and said, hey, I appreciate the work that you do. It was nice to meet him. He does a lot of work. He's got Dan Campbell's number and gets a lot of information. And he is somebody that's a valued resource for reporters and he's in the know, and he's well respected, and he's a great asset for Sports Illustrated and a role model. You can just see what he does and how he's connected to a lot of teams and gets information. So here's what's going on. And I think Lions fans and the commenters in the chat will understand. this is a direct Matthew Stafford situation where Matthew Stafford was irrelevant in the National Football League playing for the Lions. He kept losing, got a lot of money, but he's a competitor. Eventually, you just don't like to just have all your accomplishments be, eradicated or disrespected, or you're viewed as a loser because you play for a losing organization. So eventually Matthew Stafford said, get me out. I want to be traded. And everybody was talking positive, and it came as a surprise, but he was thinking about it probably right when Matt Patricia got hired, that this is probably not going to be it for me. Similar thing with Max Crosby. Now, Max Crosby is an ultimate competitor. And he's not going to publicly ever go out there, and when an organization drafts you, you build ties in the community, you have fans. He's not going to go out publicly and say, get me out of here. That's never going to happen. But there was an incident that happened, and it's a Sentinel incident. At the end of the year, he was a little bit nicked up, and the Raiders, listen, they wanted to essentially tank without tanking. They wanted to lose. And they said, Max, go home. And there was some communication with Alex Guerrero, and it didn't go exactly right. Alex Guerrero is a close confidant, the trainer of Tom Brady. Well, according to Albert Breer, a report that he put out and said on television that when that went down, the communication was bad, and it really highly frustrated Max Crosby. And the Raiders are going through another rebuild. So naturally speaking, he wants to go to a winner. He doesn't want to go through a rebuild. And so I do think the odds are much higher that he's going to express that to the organization in private. And now, if you're the organization, remember that you didn't just hear, oh, Max is done. What else did you hear? You heard, oh, if a team is going to call, we want a Micah Parsons. Where do you think he got that from? Where he just made it up and said, oh, we want no, somebody in the Raiders is putting that out there as well, that we're not going to just let the guy go. And also, too, if you're the Raiders, you just look at the Seahawks, you go, man, how did the Seahawks pop off like this when they were relevant for a little bit of time? They traded Russell Wilson and got picks and built up. I think if you're the Raiders, you're like, man, we're rebuilding. The first year with Kubiak is probably not going to be stellar with a rookie quarterback. Let's go out and get some more draft picks and pop off and get some extra capital by trading Max Crosby. I don't think you're going to get a Micah Parsons deal, but you're going to ask for it. And so you got to start high. And I do think that they can maybe get a first and a third and a player or whatever they can get. There's going to be a bidding war. It would behoove both parties to depart. And so now this is probably the more serious opportunity for Max Crosby to leave. And listen, at the end of the day, he went on Let's Go. He went on all these interviews. He didn't deny any of the rumors. He didn't say, I publicly deny everything. He's like, I don't care anymore what's being said. I'm just going to stay out of it. I don't care about all that stuff. Read between the lines. He didn't say, I denounce all these rumors. I can't. He's just saying, people are going to talk. People are going to talk for me. And it happens. And this is all business of the NFL. But remember, to get to the NFL, you got to be an alpha. And there ain't nobody that wants to lose like that. And there's nobody that, and I believe Jay Glazer to the fullest. He said, when he says, I want to play, and you tell him to go home, you're just not going to put him in a great mood. So he wants to be a winner. And so that opens the door. Chiefs, Lions, Patriots, all the teams, Bills, every team is going to come calling. So you're going to have a nice opportunity to trade him. And I think that this year, when he gets healthy, I think he'll suit up for another team. And it may not be the Lions, but what you're hearing is Max Crosby's not happy with the Raiders, and everybody's reporting it.
Yeah, I think you bring up some good points there, Doc. I do want to ask you, since the last time we spoke with you, the Super Bowl obviously happened. Seahawks with Sam Darnold. And a big topic of discussion, especially on our show on Monday morning after the Super Bowl, was obviously how they built that team. And one of the big things a lot of people start to talk about is, like, where does Sam Darnold rank among quarterbacks with the Super Bowl win, even though he doesn't have the stats really to go with it. And that kind of brought up the point of Jared Goff to Sam Darnold. Did Sam Darnold kind of show you that the Lions can win with Jared Goff? Where did you stand on that? Where are you at with that after seeing the Super Bowl and how the Seahawks kind of went about this rebuild with Sam Darnold? Do you think that's something now it shows that, hey, Jared is good enough to do it if Sam Darnold could?
Yeah, get ready, because this I heard Hefe talking about it earlier this evening, and it made my blood boil. But first, I want to clarify just two things about Max Crosby. I still believe it's 20-25%. I am not writing about Max Crosby because it's clickbait. I'm writing about it. If you see a similar topic on a website over and over and over again, it's because you, the great audience, are reading it. So every day, we're not writing one article about Max Crosby. We're writing a bunch of things about the draft, about what people tell me, what my opinions are, mock drafts. We do it all. We have an audience built in. If you like it or you don't, please feel free to go to the next topic. We have everything for everybody, but please, I just don't want people to think that I'm writing about Max Crosby for clicks. People read it. It's interesting and it's relevant because it's something that if there's a talented defensive end out there, I'd love the Lions to get them. And so I can only go if I wrote it. I'm in the business of just producing what people like. If I wrote it and 100 people read it and they said, please stop producing it, I would stop. But each article has done very well. And if there's information given by Sports Illustrated, it's also my duty to convey a relationship with the people that I'm partnered with. So please respect that. And I appreciate those that have read it. It's been Max Crosby rumors are interesting, and it's always fun to talk about improving your team. Now, that's the Hefe's like he's with his buddies and they're talking and they're actually, I was so happy. Colton's like, finally, Colton Pouncey, the great writer for The Athletic, covered the Spartans back in the day, covered the best beat in college football. He's like, oh, I'm coming around to it. Well, yeah, it's Max Crosby. Great. You're coming around to adding talent to a team that needs a defense. And then they're talking and bloviating, and Jeff's like, man, I can't understand why people just still would hate on Goff. Here's the deal. Is Jared Goff talented? Yes. Is he a quarterback that you could build a team around? Yes. But there's also something that happens beyond the talent that he's got. You are paying for a top 12 quarterback at top 3 money. So before I came on here, I said, all right, Sam Darnold's cap hit this last year was $14 million. How do you think they're able to get DeMarcus Lawrence and Leonard Williams and make a trade? How do you think they're able to spend all that money in free agency? So then I went back to last year. Jalen Hurts, how much was his cap hit? What do you know? Around $14.5 million. Now, the last 2 years prior is an outlier because Patrick Mahomes is an all-world legend. But you go back behind that. What was Stafford's cap hit? What do you know? Around $15 million. And then you go back to Tom Brady when he won a Super Bowl. What was his cap hit? Less than $20 million. What is going on here? Well, it's part of the formula. Quarterbacks that take up that much cap, I heard all Jeff's going, oh, well, and Booner, oh, build a defense. Well, how the hell are you going to pay for a defense with talented players if you have a quarterback making $50 million? How do you do that? Well, you got to restructure them and bring it back down. So now instead of going out and getting Max Crosby, you're looking at Al-Quadin Muhammad. You're looking at a draft pick. You're looking at cheaper. So the math ain't mathing and that's
so are you saying that if they do restructure, then yes, you can?
If they restructure them and get them down, I don't know if they're going to get them down to $14 million. But at this point in time,
so that's
in
an
24
outlier.
and 25, when you were right in your window, it presented a challenge. It presents a challenge to be able to build the team that we want. And so that's what frustrates me the most when you hear me yelling and screaming online is I looked at the formula for some teams that win. And the teams that win typically have a reasonable quarterback on reasonable money. They spend reasonably in free agency. They have a defense that is all world, and they peak and have no injuries. And the Lions are investing in their offense. They have a quarterback making $50 million, and they traded draft capital for Isaac Tesla when you could have used that for a defense. And then what bothered me today on my podcast was the worst. And then you had Brad Holmes going, why are all the fans screaming about a defender? Because defense wins championships, and the fans underlying know that. They didn't say it specifically, defense wins championships. They said, we like your defense as the talent we see. We feel like one position's missing. So your general manager doesn't know it, but the whole NFL understands for the last 9-10 years, great defenses win. So I hope that maybe the spark light and the light bulb goes off that, oh, this is how you win. This is how teams that win Super Bowls do it. And I'm sorry. I never would think that Jared Goff is worth $50 million. What pissed me off after the Super Bowl is you could have got a quarterback for $30 million and built around him and get it. So it doesn't make me happy to go, oh, Sam Darnold win. It makes me go, you're paying double the price for something that maybe you could get better if you could find a quarterback that was more affordable. Instead, you invested and you followed the lead of this growing, unsustainable quarterback market. A quarterback should not make $60 million. I don't care how good they are. The quarterback market should be around $30 to $35 million, and that's it. And spread the wealth to everybody else, defensive ends, safeties, linebackers, centers. So it bothers me because it's not the talent. Jared Goff, and also, too, remember that, Jared Goff, I know he's talented and he'll have good games, but you can't build a perfect team. It's just not possible. Otherwise, the Lions would have done it already. You remember the game against the Vikings? Everyone seems to forget. I remember it was Christmas. I was half in the bag. Listen, he can have stretches of time when he plays well, but in the most critical moment, wouldn't you say the Vikings game was must win? Must win. When the pressure was the hottest this year, the team that was out there was not good enough, and he also was part of the problem. So I'm of the opinion that great, do the best you can with Jared Goff, restructure, do what you got to do, build around him. I just don't know if you can. I'm of the opinion, simply as a simpleton, hey, if a team like the Eagles has a younger quarterback on a reasonable contract, that way you can draft as many good players as you want. You can go out in free agency and sign a Saquon Barkley, be aggressive, and make a couple deals to get you over the edge. It seems like a formula to me, but it seems like part of that formula is not being followed by the Lions. So that's not what my takeaway was. Yeah, you can win with Jared Goff. I'm pissed because you didn't win the last 3 years because of Jared Goff.
Doc,
you have a reason. You can't have a quarterback making $50 million on a cap and try to add all this beautiful defensive talent that you all are asking for.
Well, if they restructure, it does tie Goff to Detroit longer. It makes it messier to get rid of him, but you do free up a lot of cash. So, you could go get better. And now this goes back to for me, Doc, like you're talking to the guy, I mentioned the window. I think they missed their best opportunity to win a Super Bowl. That was, to me, the NFC Championship run, where Goff, I believe, was making less money. I guess where I was coming from was not necessarily the salary aspect, because you have to free up money, no doubt, but more so a talent perspective. I think that's what people were arguing. I know the contract stuff is fair. I think people were just straight up arguing the talent. Like Goff isn't Mahomes or isn't Allen or isn't these guys that can win a Super Bowl, when we just saw Sam Darnold game manage his way to a Super Bowl. Yeah, so like that was more so my point. Not really.
A game manager's nice, but you're paying $50 million for a guy to do a little bit more, and I just think that
he's better than Darnold. Like,
I think he's better than Sam Darnold. But at the same token, 3 years ago was basically the Sam Darnold year. 2023 was the year, and so philosophically, what we're looking at is the Lions' first window closed. Now you got to rebuild it and open it back up again. And now you have a easier schedule. You're going to have to, like I said, you got to have an overhaul. You're going to have a lot new players than in 2023. You're going to potentially move on from Alex Anzalone, DJ Reader, a couple offensive linemen. So a lot of your key players, your core is there, but a lot of the role players have to be probably upgraded at a certain spot. And I think now people are recognizing it has to be on defense. You got to get better in the interior. You got to get better at cornerback. You got to figure out the safety spot. So, it's there's a lot of holes to fill for the Detroit Lions. So I'm thinking 2026 is going to be one of those years where you get a good draft and plug a hole in free agency, but it's going to be tough to plug all those holes and to fit everything in one season. But I think they at least step one to me indicates that they understand that defensively they got to get a little better, and maybe scheme wise and the talent that they get along the interior needs to be just a little bit better and faster. And if they can do that, now you're cooking, and now you have an opportunity. It's a lot of it's a lot of needs right now with the Detroit Lions, especially on defense. And you have to hope Terry Darnold and his Rakestraw got to deliver. They got to deliver for you this year, because you've invested draft picks, and it's about time that they get on the field and show what they're about.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned the Goff salary, and this is me agreeing with you, by the way. His cap percentage was 11.68% in 2025. It's going to be 22% next year. Now they can restructure and free up money, but just looking at that 22% number, they don't have a choice but to free up money because if you look back and look at Super Bowls and quarterbacks who won the Super Bowl, the highest cap hit percentage of a quarterback was 17%, and that was Mahomes in 2022. And then Mahomes did it with 16.9% in 2023. But everyone else, like Brady in 2012, Brady in 2018-12, Peyton 11 with the Broncos, Eli 11, almost 12.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like a percentage of the cap does matter. I think Easy brought that up before. He used to harp on that argument, which, by the way, like if you want to go into the salary doc, you're spot on with that. Like you can't take up, based on that data over Super Bowl history, more than 17%, basically. And Mahomes did it twice.
Right. But now,
So
and also too, just based on what we saw, it's different. But if you catch the Lions offensive line on a bad day in the Super Bowl, what happened to Drake May is what it's going to happen to Jared Goff, where he's standing there, turns the ball over. You got to be able to actually, when we say fix the offensive line, we mean it. Because remember, Sean McVay made the decision to move on because when they were trying to tinker with that offensive line, it was horrible, and Goff led the league in turnovers. So he's buttoned that up in Detroit. He's gotten a lot better, and I get it. You could get a lot worse, but you could also get a lot cheaper. And if you find your general manager's job is to make sure that you find the best avenue to win a Super Bowl, not just to get to the playoffs and make everybody happy. So it's tough because the market dictated it and everybody wants to top it. But Goff took advantage of those 2 playoff wins and parlayed it into a massive contract. But you're tied to him. So you better have this formula down packed. You better fix that offensive line because, in my humble opinion, I do think the Lions will appear in a Super Bowl next. But I'm not going to ever sell that they're just going to show up year 1 in the Super Bowl and win it. I think the next step is the gut punch for all of us to experience a Super Bowl loss together, and then it'll make the Super Bowl win eventually that much sweeter. And if I know that they're going to eventually win one, I'll take a loss too because it'll make the win that much sweeter.
Now, by the way, before you go, Boone, also just to clarify, just to give Goff some credit, 2027 and 2028, he drops back down to a 16% of the cap. So maybe
there it is. He's good in 20. All we got to do, we just got to restructure for 2026. That's it. And we can restructure under 17%. The Super Bowl is on for 2026. That's the goal.
I'm hoping.
At 17%, we got to get under it. Doc, I want to ask you, we're about 3 weeks out of the combine. It's coming up pretty quick, maybe actually like 2.5. I want to get your thoughts here. I don't know if we actually got to talk to you a little bit about the draft last week, but as this drafting starts to heat up every week, more and more things, you start to learn more prospects, more guys. What are you looking at right now for the first round of the Lions? Like, where are you kind of leaning towards? Because it feels like the fan base, and not even just the fan base, but like national mocks. I just keep seeing edge rusher and tackle, but I'm starting to see a lot more edge rusher than tackle for some reason. More often than not when it comes to the national media. I disagree. I think it needs to be tackle no matter what. Where do you stand on that now, another week into this kind of process with draft talk?
Yeah, no, it's interesting, right? In regards to what you're seeing, it's I do think that there's a potential for defensive line and offensive line in the first 2 picks. I think that's where you're going. You're hearing names like Cassius Howell, guys that are really intriguing. Field Yates did a mock draft today. He had the lineman from Georgia, Monroe Freeling. You're seeing a lot of people liking Akeem Mesidor. So I'm excited because I do think that the Lions, at the very basic level of evolving, are not going to draft projects. And I think that the good thing is that at drafting 17, there's a lot of good names out there. I think that there's an opportunity to, either a Keldrick Falk from Auburn. There's an opportunity to get players that you want to develop in the future. You got to, the age-old saying is, free agency is probably going to plug the center position, and the draft, you probably are going to need at some point to look at realistically replacing Taylor Decker. So I'm excited that the list is out. You can go to Lions on SI. I have the entire offensive list tomorrow, the defensive list of all the prospects. The combine was really fun. You guys got a chance to get a taste of it. You guys are awesome in that you sit in the stadium and do the clock thing. I love that. I'm going to be watching you guys. I go for the media sessions and for the positions of need. So I'll definitely check in with the defensive ends. I haven't heard yet my standing in the combine, so they're taking their sweet time with it, but I'm hoping that I'm approved. but I like to do that. And so, a little breaking news here. Can't say when the Lions are going to speak, but I can't say officially when the Lions are going to speak. But I want to let you know that my favorite day of the week is Taco Tuesday. So when the combine starts, it'll be a fun opportunity. I hope everybody enjoys Taco Tuesday and understands that when the Lions speak, it's going to be a fun opportunity to know what's going down at the combine.
Well, Doc, you wrote in another article, which we actually talked about, which, I think another takeaway from the Super Bowl I want to get your thoughts on is Dan Campbell and his aggressiveness. A lot of field goals in the Super Bowl. Mike McDonald felt, hey, we have a good defense. We could take this. We could take the field goals. And, but even, to be honest, Mike Vrabel, good defense, and they got caught up a little bit late in the game due to some blown plays and blown coverage. But they were all taking field goals all game. What do you think about Dan Campbell and being in a similar situation? He's aggressive. He's kind of a Sean Payton type of coach, and Sean Payton was aggressive against the Patriots and ultimately ended up losing. Do you believe that type of aggressiveness can hold a trophy when it's all said and done? And I know people will say, well, you haven't had a good defense. Well, there'll be games where the defense is playing really well and Dan still goes for it. So I don't even think it's really a good defense argument. I think it's just Dan Campbell, and that's his identity. But do you believe that can ultimately lead to a championship?
Yeah, no, it's also too, you realize that you have a lot of offensive weapons before. So before it was successful for the most part. Now you could say, if Josh Reynolds doesn't drop it, maybe they continue to, maybe we'll be talking about something different in 2023. But here's the philosophy. Listen, you can only go by what you think. And so the Lions picked an opportunity to build an elite offense. And who's going to argue? It was awesome. In week one, I was telling Dan Campbell, I loved your offense last year. Do the stuff you were doing last year. And it was elite. And this year, too, and remember, too, guys, stats, you can look at them for days and tell any story you want. You played at some teams that you punished, and it makes it look like some, from what I'm hearing, the Slappies are saying the Lions defense is similarly ranked to the Seahawks. Well, we all that have a brain and understand football, those two things are not equal. The Seahawks defense was not the same as the Lions. And everybody knows that in the biggest moments, the Seahawks defense brought the pressure, forced a turnover, and were amazingly awesome and adaptable. They even took away the ability of Drake May to understand what he was seeing with motion by the ability. If you watch the film, I love digging into the Seattle defense. They would be in zone when the guy was when you send a guy in motion, if the guy is running with you, that means man. They were doing that and still be in zone. It was awesome. They confused the hell out of Drake May, and they just made his life a living nightmare. The Lions defense is not good enough. And to me, I get it this year. It was more of an acknowledgement that the defense wasn't good enough by going for it. The Lions are an offensive team, and they want to have success at defense, but they just haven't. I mean, they haven't had a top 10 defense consistently, but they have an all-world offense. It can win you a lot of games, but I do think you have to make those steady improvements on defense. That's why you invested in Aiden Hutchinson. You got to round out that defensive line, but all you can do is go by what you're taught, right? Sean Payton believes in it. He won a title doing it that way, and I understand the reasoning. Analytics say in the long run that if you go for it, it ups the reason why they're doing it is it says, hey, if you go for it consistently on fourth down in prime opportunities, overall, it gives you more of a percentage chance to win the game. So it's a numbers thing. And I give Dan credit for using that and embracing it. But at the same token, you got to use that aggression card wisely. And when you are 0 for 1, 0 for 2, 0 for 3 and fourth down, analytics doesn't take into account weather, an injury that happens in the game, game flow, what you're seeing. All I can say is this year was a bad year for the analytics crowd because we all know Sean Payton should have kicked that field goal to get the 10 points, to get it to 10 and get those 3 points. And we all know Dan Campbell went for it far too often, and he died by the sword this year doing it. You got to adapt, and it's a thankless endeavor. If you make it, everybody loves you. If you don't, everybody's criticizing you. But you got to have better feel, just better feel of what's going on in the game. And it's also tough too because there were times when he chose to kick a field goal and then Jake Bates missed it. But listen, I'm more of the opinion that I like to see what the Seahawks did. Win however you need to. If you need to kick field goals and go up 12-0 and then punch the other team in the mouth in the fourth quarter, I'll take it. I'll have a heart attack along the way. It's not as exciting. It's not as sexy, but a win is a win. And it was cool to see the Seahawks dominate the Patriots offense.
Doc, I do want to bring this up because obviously all this stuff with the Seahawks defense. The one thing with this defense is Lions defense. They did not make any move. Like offensively, they spent all this time. Obviously, they needed a new OC, but then they bring in Kafka and they make all these moves with the staff. They just did not touch the defensive staff at all. Are you concerned about that? Because that was something I've been since day one of the offseason. I've been on the pedestal just screaming like they're worried about the wrong side of the ball. Like they didn't even need to hire an OC. They could have ran with Dan Campbell next year at OC, calling plays, and they would be better off, changing the defensive, staff and figuring that out over the offensive side. Are you concerned about that? That like we're now in February. We thought maybe it was just going to be a little delayed and there was going to be some they haven't changed one positional piece, nothing when it comes to coaches on the defensive side of the ball. And this defense for 5 years just has not been good. And it seems like that's something that he just keeps missing on. Where are you at with that?
Yeah, no, it's not, it's been okay. It's not been elite championship level. And we all can agree to that. But let's just start realistically and break it down. They love Aiden Hutchinson. They know that they're going to get double-digit sacks out of him. Fine. They went with a veteran in DJ Reader. He was a little bit more affordable, coming off of an injury. So you're looking at it and you're like, man, if we're going to pay J-Mo, Panay, Amon-Ra, we try to go with what we got in the interior. And unfortunately, here's also the bad luck that they had is Ali McNeil was far better, obviously, prior to the ACL injury. That stinks. Malcolm Rodriguez, a nice depth piece. That stinks. He gets hurt. Derek Barnes last year, he gets hurt. And also, too, it's just devastatingly, we got to remember, we don't want to have too much recency bias. If Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, Tyrion Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw were healthy this year, I feel like it's a little bit of a different conversation and people are looking at this a little bit differently. It would have been a playoff-worthy defense, but you probably would have lost to the Rams or the Seahawks in the playoffs. But given the fact that the depth wasn't there, well, how do you build depth in the defense? Well, maybe you don't draft a Broderick Martin, you draft somebody else. Maybe you don't draft a Isaac Tesla when you got 3 weapons, you draft another defender, another linebacker that can get after it. So that's where what happens is when you miss in the draft, it starts to show up when you get injuries. Your depth is not as good. Instead of having your draft pick, instead of Hendon Hooker, maybe you didn't need to do that. Broderick Martin, Colby Sorsdahl. And if you have some of these guys that you took on offense that sat a Giovanni Manu, you realize if those guys would have been defenders, maybe you drafted Jalen Carter as opposed to somebody else. And you realize, well, what happens is you can't have it both ways. You can't take projects in the draft, miss on a couple guys, and then when you get injured, just plug guys off the practice squad. It doesn't work like that. So it's unfortunate. Brad Holmes has to draft better. The 24 draft is looking a little rough. But if the 25, remember, Dan Jackson hopefully comes back. There's an opportunity there to see what he can do. And you realize, man, the Tesla pick, I think is going to be a good pick. But for the short-term goal of winning the Super Bowl last year, that one's going to be the one that's dissected quite a bit. You traded capital, and you didn't need it. Did you need Isaac Tesla last year? No. You definitely needed another linebacker or another safety. You need another interior defensive lineman. I just feel like if there is more of an investment on defense and you get more impact out of the guys, you're going to have to get Ali McNeil to play better. You got to get Tyleik Williams to play better. I love your guys' debate last night. First rounder, starter depth. I was like, man, he had an up and down year. It wasn't his best year, but good enough to get experience. But yeah, he's got to finish. He's got to be more of an interior presence. But I do think that has an opportunity to grow and develop. But yeah, it's all going to be interesting too with Alex Anzalone. Does he develop? What happens if Jack Campbell gets the reins? Derek Barnes is okay, but I think you might have to upgrade the linebacker spot a little bit too in the draft. So you got work to do on defense. And I think it's true now. I think everybody in Detroit realizes, all right, we have an okay offense. We can get by. It's going to have some bumps with the OC and early on, but eventually the talent's going to win out. It's a good offense. It's going to be. And Dan Campbell actually, in his talk said it. We need turnovers. Like, he's actually spent weeks telling the guys, we need turnovers, and they just couldn't do it. And you saw what the Seahawks were able to do, getting the turnover, the pick six, the interception. Holy cow. When you get 6 sacks and some turnovers, there's a chance for the Lions. But I am concerned that, look, Mike McDonald had Leslie Frazier, 66 years old, legendary defensive mind and assistant, and he was a big, huge part of Mike McDonald's success. I do think that the defensive staff might have benefited from some different voices in the room, at least to think, I understand continuity, but I also think too, some of the fans in Detroit are starting to realize maybe our scheme, maybe the philosophy isn't good enough. The base defense that you're playing, man-to-man coverage, a lot of fans are going, wait a minute, I don't like the product. And we'll see if I think it's a question to ask again to Calvin Shepard. Hey, just watching the teams that had success in the playoffs, do you think you need to make some more significant adjustments? Maybe not drastic. I used the word drastic when I asked him last. Maybe I'll use the word maybe I'll be geeky and I'll be like, I noticed that, the Seahawks played a lot of nickel. Do you think you guys should try to adapt a model that actually was proven to win in the Super Bowl? Something silly like that. We'll see what he says.
Yeah, Doc, I did want to ask you, you mentioned some of the positions the Lions might need to fill. We had this discussion earlier in the show in the first round. What positions should the Lions prioritize? We did a top 5 list, obviously tackle, defensive end. But after that, Doc, what are some positions that you think Lions fans should keep an eye out for, or maybe don't be surprised if the Lions decide to do it? I think we talked about different positions. Obviously, interior offensive line. I brought up the possibility of a linebacker, given who they have currently. Again, these aren't things we prefer, but I'm just saying, wouldn't be surprised. Another position we brought up is corner. I know that sounds crazy because they drafted TA and Ennis, but you don't really, you see how good the Seahawks are in their secondary. You still don't even know. DJ Reed is not a CB1, and you don't know if TA is a CB1. So where are you at? Besides tackle and defensive end, what are some positions that you're like, man, if they draft these positions, don't be surprised in the first round?
Yeah, and I do think that Booner, or one of you guys can pull it up. I think Witherspoon was taken just a little bit before the Lions pick in that draft, and I think the Lions wanted him. I think that they
traded back right away, Doc, right away when he was picked.
Yeah, I think that he was awesome, man. The pressure that he was getting, the speed, the stunts. Oh, Eminwari was awesome. I was like, man, it was unbelievable. Look, I think everyone clearly understands you need center, so that's going to be a spot I think they target fast. And whether it be Linderbaum or Connor McGovern, or if the Arizona center is a cap casualty, you target him. So you have an opportunity to upgrade that spot. That's a spot. It's a hole. You aren't theoretically going to plug that in the draft. Now, if you are in a pinch, do you gamble and say Tate Ratledge, put him at center and see if he learns the position in a year? It saves you money. And then you could allocate that to the corners and the interior defensive line. That's one way to look at it. But I say center, free agency. Boom. A position to be surprised, tight end. And it's crazy, but I'm going to look at it because I obviously don't watch a lot of Falcons football, but just the size, I'm interested in Kyle Pitts. He's a free agent. He's a big man. I got to check into his blocking numbers and his consistent effort. But it seemed like with Penix, he started to get a little bit more involved. I'm wondering, there's other tight ends on the market too that people are very high on. I think tight end is a position that is going to be very intriguing to pay attention to, because you're going to use 12 and 13 personnel. There's going to be some good ones out there. Dallas Goedert. I always like Dallas Goedert because I'm always facing him, darn it, in fantasy. And every single time I'm facing him, he's always getting 1 or 2 touchdowns. He's up there in age. He might be more affordable. So tight end, pay attention to, because Dan's at the position. I'm very curious. You got a new OC to get another. I know you signed one recently, so we'll see if that's going to be invested in further. On the defensive side, I just have to think that the safety spot has to be looked at. Now, a commenter in a couple spots I saw today really said, you know what? We don't like Terrion at cornerback. We like Terrion at safety. And I was like, oh man, that's intriguing, because a lot of people said the same thing about Okudah. It's not really the most.
But TA played safety though. He actually played safety.
Right. Right. It's not the most complimentary thing to say about a corner, but it's intriguing. It's intriguing because you also have Nick Whiteside. You potentially bring back Rock Ya-Sin. You might bring back Amik Robertson. What? Say it again.
Go Cardinals.
Yeah. So you realize I look at it and I say, okay, on defense, what's the most important position? I think if you can get back Al-Quadin Muhammad at a fair contract, if you can give him maybe the extra year, he earned it. I think that if you give him $7 million every year for 2 years, maybe you bring him back. Now you have you obviously you should let go of Marcus Davenport. Maybe you add another defensive end in the draft. Yeah, I am not surprised that people are looking at the cornerbacks and saying it's not good enough. Let's go steal from the Seahawks. Reek Woolen would be interesting here. He does play man to man. He's an interesting target. I think there's another guy named Brian. I think people are paying attention to from the Rams. There's a lot of interesting. Free agency is going to be fun in March, but I don't think there's any position linebacker you can upgrade. I don't think there's any position I'd be surprised other than on the offensive side of the football. But we are all realizing that this football team needs to upgrade in a lot of avenues. But I'm also excited to see the development of some of these guys like Ahmed Hassanin, Jackson Meeks, to see Nick Whiteside develop and see what he can do in this offense for the defense and see what these guys can do. But yeah, the free agency is going to be interesting because I feel like there's a splash in there, but not a big splash, not a $20 million a year splash, but a, $11 million a year guy. Maybe a couple of them and that'll be it. And you round it out with your own guys. I think that, Roy Lopez will be brought back. I think they're going to target a lot of their own guys. I'm sorry. Not as sexy. I would say one splash just to get it out there because you see the Tigers, what they did. They're stealing all the headlines. If they don't make any significant signing, that would lead to a lot of people being down on the Detroit Lions. I think you have to make one, at least at center. But, man, what would be unique, if you thought about trading Ali McNeil? I don't think anybody's going to take his contract. I think the biggest surprise this offseason to me that the fans would grumble a little bit is if you did actually trade David Montgomery. If you cut him or you traded him, I think the fan base would rumble because he did come out and say, well, I talked to Drew and Drew's going to use me. But, guys, remember that things change quickly in the NFL. A guy could go down as a running back in training. Something could happen quickly. And if somebody puts an offer together and says, hey, we're going to overpay. If someone says, hey, we're going to give you a 3rd round pick for David Montgomery out of the blue, would you deny it? So things happen quick.
I would be mad if they traded David Montgomery.
I would not be. I mean, I think that I think you can get, like I said, you can get his similar production with Jam Miller drafted in this year's draft. 600 yards.
I think Jam Miller's good, but
you can't get 500 yards out of Jam Miller.
To be fair, Doc, to be fair, everyone thought Caleb Johnson was going to be the next best thing in the NFL, and the Steelers drafted him to replace Najee Harris, and everyone was going, "Oh, well, you could just draft the running back in the 2nd round, and you'll replace Najee Harris. It's that easy." And then he ended up fumbling 10 times, and not literally, but he ended up fumbling. Like it's. I get what you're saying, and I think the concept is correct.
Well, I have to look at it like this: why are we putting Brad Holmes as the evaluator to draft a guy that's going to fumble 10 times? I'm hoping that in this draft, I'm going to put out the positive thought that this general manager will target somebody to replace a good player that can produce. I'm not going to go into it going, well, he's going to go get a bum and he's going to fumble 20 times. I'm going to be positive, Booner. Be positive out there. We got to turn this around in a good way.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm positive. Like, I do agree. Like, the concept of drafting running backs, like Jeff and I have talked about that a lot, Doc. I just more so like, I like the concept. If Demont's contract was up and he wanted more, like, but you already have him and he already produces, and it's not like he's like breaking the bank like Ali McNeil is or someone else is. Like, it's less than 10 million, and like you're guaranteed that production out of him. You draft the running back in the draft, and if you end up with the Caleb Johnson, you're in a, like, you know what I mean? Like, who's going to take the hit of that? That's going to be Brad Holmes. So if I was him, I would not want to take that risk. I'd rather take a risk on a different position. But
I'll ask you this. Are we at the point with David Montgomery that there literally are many mouths to feed? Think about it. Amon-Ra needs touches. J-Mo needs his touches. You got to involve.
But you did see, though, there were times in
Laporta. You got to involve. And I think Gibbs, if you're going to give Gibbs $20 million, I can't justify if I'm paying a guy 20, maybe a record running back contract, every carry for David just feels like you're not utilizing the best strength you have in Jahmyr Gibbs. So I would go cheaper and expect less production. Just give me 400 or 500 yards, a couple plays, to rest Jahmyr Gibbs, but Jahmyr Gibbs, it's go time. Especially if you give him that contract, you make him the feature guy. I'm sorry. If you pay someone $20 million, you got to be the guy that gets all the touches, all of them. And you just have to. I mean, how do you justify giving a guy $20 million and you give David Montgomery 12 touches a game? It makes it a little bit more difficult to justify. It's hard to do value-wise.
Yeah, I see both sides, to be honest. I don't hate either way. I would rather keep them, but I could see what you're saying there. Can I ask you, Doc, and a lot of people, there is a lot of Doc questions here, so stay tuned. There's gonna be more questions about the Lions to Doc, but I do have to do our due diligence and bring up the Tigers with the Justin Verlander signing on top of that as well. The Reese Olson out for the season. We talked about this yesterday, Doc. One of my thoughts was just, I've always said the last few years, if you have a top tier rotation in Major League Baseball, you have a chance to win the World Series. Seems like the Tigers now have arguably a top 5 rotation in all of baseball heading into this season, and legit World Series contenders. What are your thoughts on the signing, the Reese Olson news, and heading into spring training started today? Massive day. Massive pitchers day. And catchers reported today.
Yeah, it's an exciting time, man. Spring. Hope springs eternal, as they say. It invigorated the fan base, and that was good to see. Listen, you love to hear rhetoric like, "Oh, the Tigers are spending more than anybody in the division, the ninth most spent in Major League Baseball." This is good, and at least when Scott Harris spoke a couple of years ago, and he said, "When the time is right, we will ask for more money and spend it." Now, it's going to be interesting because the left-handed pitcher that you might have feels like an overpay a little bit, but hey, it might have took that to get him here. Verlander is older, and I love the nostalgia. But to me, I always thought this was a playoff team, regardless of who they had. Remember, the Tigers didn't really struggle in pitching in the playoffs. Do you recall? 9th inning, 10th inning, 11th inning, 12th inning. Where's the key hit? Where's the key hit? So I think it would have been a perfect offseason if you got a bat. I feel like maybe that can be addressed at the deadline, but I do think this team can compete, and I love the rotation. It sucks about Reese Olson. I'm bummed out because I would have loved to have seen him in the rotation, but I'm a little bummed out too. It sounds like McGonigal is getting the minor league treatment where he's not going to get a chance to earn a spot, but maybe Max Clark will. The one thing that as a sports fan and everybody here in the chat is going to understand is before he made the moves, everybody was bumming out. It was like, nobody would buy a ticket. Nobody would feel the value of being part of it. Nobody's going to buy. Listen, I read it and I read it and I read it. And I still kind of don't understand how to sign up for the baseball package. I don't even know if I am. I think this year I might kick my feet up, listen to Dan Dickerson, have a whiskey and let the theater of the mind entertain me and not watch it on television. We'll see. Maybe I'm a credentialed media member. Maybe I'll go to a lot more games, but at the very least you sparked more interest. And that's good. And again, one of the things you do is you make additions to improve your team. The pitching staff got a little better. You hope that Green and Torkelson and your offensive weapons get a little better with the strike zone and you're able to compete. I think that first and foremost, you benefit from playing in a dookie. Everyone thinks that the Central's dookie. So that's awesome. I think you win by default. So that's good. And let's go. And to me, now the next step is last year, Scott Harris flunked the trade deadline, and everybody told him he flunked. This year, you can't flunk. Get a bat, help this team. And I'm excited, like everybody in the chat, to go on the journey with the Detroit Tigers this year. Good. And I think Scott Harris slightly repaired his reputation. But hell, Chris Ilitch spent the money. Thank you, Mr. Chris Ilitch. You spent the money, and you made the fans happy. Now, the fans got to return the favor. You got to go out there. So they made a move. It's maybe not world championship move, but maybe they're in the World Series and maybe can throw a couple haymakers at the Dodgers or whoever's spending, whoever's across from them. But now we got to do our part. Go down there, support the team, and let's see what this team can do. And then getting Verlander, it's nice. It's cool. It's a lot of great nostalgia. All of us remember the time where he was the big part of the turnaround. I mean, it's wild now to think that he's 43. When I remember vividly his first appearances, he was the rookie that just came up there that Jim Leland had to kind of tone down a little bit. And he came up there firing the baseball. So it's cool to see him as a 4th or 5th starter spot. Everyone's going to love seeing him out there, and maybe he'll finish his story in Detroit. Wouldn't that be a true Hollywood ending if he can win another ring in Detroit? It'd be amazing.
Doc, what'd you think of the Pistons fight before we get to mailbag? The scuffle. Are you pro, Isaiah Stewart defending his teammates, or are you like, come on, man, you can't get suspended? Where are you at?
Yeah, I was a little surprised. I thought Miles Bridges only hit the members of the allegedly the opposite sex. So it's interesting that went down, allegedly, reportedly. I'm a Spartan dog. We can talk about our own. I'm a Spartan dog, but listen, I love it. We all watched the bad boy era. We all were part of a time when we all saw, Isaiah Thomas and Rick Mahorn and Bill Laimbeer. It just reminds you of it. And I love the video. I don't know if you guys saw it, where Isaiah Stewart's walking off and the camera catches it perfectly. He's like, if you don't want me coming off the bench, why the F am I here in Detroit? It's rugged. Listen, don't mess with Jalen Duren. Don't mess with our guys. We're going to come out swinging. And that's the tone we're going to set. And listen, it sucks on the punishment side. He's going to miss games, I think, against Toronto and the Knicks and all that kind of stuff. But I love it. I respect it. Listen, if someone's my brother, and we got to talk about Mr. Switzerland, Duncan Robinson. Hey, man, you got to kind of act like you want to fight with your boys. He's sitting there going, what am I going to do here? What do you mean, what are you going to do there? You got to get in the mix there and help your boys out. You come out looking the worst out of everybody. You're sitting there with your arms. What do you mean? Walk. Okay, we got to remind Duncan Robinson. When there are fisticuffs, we don't go and hide the other way. We get in the mix. What you do is you just kind of got to act like you're going to be aggressive. Put your arm around someone, get in, run in, and you got to learn to act like you're going to be aggressive. He came out looking like he didn't want none of that.
Hey, Doc, by the way, I know you have that take because he's a Michigan man. I heard some NBA legends actually say, hey, Duncan Robinson made the right move. He made a business decision knowing that he doesn't belong over there, and he turned the other way. That's just what NBA legends are saying, not me. NBA legends are like, hey, Duncan made the right decision by turning around. He probably knew he was like, hey, I shouldn't be in that scuffle right there.
Maybe you're right. Maybe a Michigan man hides when it's time to go to battle with your boys. I don't know.
Or just maybe they're just smart and just say, hey, like, we probably shouldn't be doing this.
No, man, you listen, in sports, I think it got instigated by, Durham maybe a little bit with the fisticuffs, but in the end, the Pistons are this way successful because they're together. It's a brotherhood, and I absolutely love it. Remember, I think it might, maybe I'm going to romanticize it right now. It might have the galvanizing effect as the March game with Darren McCarty. Maybe it unites everybody and it takes them through the NBA playoffs. Ride or die, Detroit versus everybody. Come step on the Detroit Pistons and see what happens.
Well, we'll get to mailbag. We got a couple for you, Doc. To start off, you have a hater, Twisted Squat Cobbler. Doc, is there any factual evidence that Max is coming? And if so, what is it? Or are you just fishing for clicks?
Yeah, no, if you listen, and listen, again, this is the part that I've shared online. There's reading, and then you also have to comprehend what you're reading. The odds are of Max Crosby coming are about 25%. I'd never said that the Lions are trading for him. I've given an opinion that I want them to. I've just given updates that if he gets traded, he will tell the Raiders the first choice I want is the Lions. He's from here. And to your last point, the blessing, now I'm in year 8. I don't have to fish for clicks. The reason why I got blessed in this opportunity is I founded the Detroit Sports Podcast. I built a massive audience from 13 to 19. And On Sports Illustrated came and took care of me to be able to use the audience in the manner in which they do. So right when 2019 started, I never had to build another audience. But along the way, I've continued to grow. I have a healthy readership built from people that knew me from before. I don't have to fish for clicks. If you don't like it, it's not really going to affect me in any sort of way. So if you like the articles, great. If you don't, I don't have to fish for clicks. I'll tell you some numbers. Millions and millions and millions. Go on Google, hit my name. My videos, I don't even know where they're showing up. They're showing up on Pro Football Reference, Yahoo, Yardbarker. They put this face all over the internet. So the twisted squat cobbler, I'm the happiest guy in media. I hit a grand slam in my career. And the blessing is, if it all ends with on Sports Illustrated, I created Detroit Sports Podcast, which will be around forever, baby. Forever. And that's profitable too.
Jesse says, question for Doc. On a scale from 1 to 10, do you think the Lions will restructure those contracts to free up cash for free agency? 2, do the Lions draft 2 or more defensive tackles with their first 5 picks?
Yeah. On a scale of 1 to 10, you're going to do Goff for sure. I think that you're not going to do St. Brown, not going to do Panay, not going to do Aleem. I think one restructure, you hope maybe Taylor Decker retires, that frees up. You cut Graham Glasgow, that frees it up. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I think for sure 10, Jared Goff. The rest are going to be dicey in terms of restructures, but you hope you get some cap savings in other areas. And do I think they draft a defensive tackle? Possible, not 2. I think you need to go offensive line, potential left tackle, and you need defensive end and defensive tackle at some point in that draft. So I think that they will not draft 2, maybe 1.
And then we have Xavier Doc Bag.
Nice.
Favorite pro wrestler of all time, Doc.
Yeah, that's a great question. Please don't judge me. Don't judge me. I'm in a good mood. I've had another great week. I'm enjoying the little bit of the off season. I know I'm doing the daily podcast. Most of you guys have been nice. I feel like I'm at the highest trust level among the audience I've ever had. I'm so thankful every day to fire up the machine, get texts from Booner. He wants me to tell him every part of my business all day long, which I love. My favorite pro wrestler of all time, I grew up on him. It's Hulk Hogan. I was a real American fan. Like, the music was great. It was just until then he did the NWO, which I loved. And then I met him in person. Outside of everything else that happened, I had this conversation with Corey when all the other extra stuff went down. And I said, Corey, man, listen, I know that there's all this other stuff, but when I saw him at the Lions, I turned into like a 5-year-old. And I'm like, I just think of him as Hulk Hogan. I don't know or care about what he does in his personal life. I just know the guy that when his music played, I got really excited like a kid. And when I met him, I've never felt this way around anybody. When I did the Too Sweet with Hulk Hogan, I felt his aura. I don't know what it was, but I was like, that's Hulk Hogan. And maybe it's that way when you're starstruck, but it was like I was in La La Land, and I did the Too Sweet with him. I met him. And then the next day he showed up with the Lions. So my favorite pro wrestler is Hulk Hogan. I'm a Hulkamaniac for life. I drink the real American beer-ish, and I supported everything about him, baby. And I love the message. Say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and support the greatest country in the world. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah,
Wow.
baby.
I still got. I kept. Obviously, we had a partnership with them. Yeah, and I kept a lot of it because
why not, right?
Passed away. It's gonna be like a.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of stuff. I still have a lot of the beer.
Exactly. Merch, baby. Merch.
Stuff. Yeah.
Merch.
By the way, Coach Walsh says, Doc, your favorite boy band.
Oh, here we go.
Guys, what is this? Get to know Doc Day? I am not a boy band fan per se. I have a wide variety of things I listen to. I would say the best one that was out there was, I stopped at New Kids on the Block. All the girls, I liked that because all the girls liked it. So I bought, when I was young, I was like 13. I bought a girl that I liked when I was like 13, 14. I bought her a huge New Kids on the Block button. I tried to be slick about it, and I didn't get the reaction I thought I would, but I tried to do what the ladies liked when I was a young teenager. So it didn't go that way. I'm more of a easy listening Phil Collins, Genesis kind of guy. And nowadays, when you want to fire it up, a little Metallica type action.
Thoughts on Olivia Dean?
On who?
Doc ain't know about that. He ain't know about that. Yeah, that's that new music, Doc. I don't think you're into that new
No, I'm in that old phase now, man. I know I'm feeling it. I thought about it too. Just real sad about James Vanderbeek. I love the Varsity Blues movie. I was bummed out, but I got so just a message. I got my colonoscopy. I got it all clear. You think about those kind of things. So I appreciate your help. And be happy every single day.
Breaking news, by the way. I actually found this out today. You don't have to do colonoscopies anymore. Now you just have to do blood work. There's a world where
Yeah.
There's it's like a finger prick with blood, and they test it now. It's like you don't have to do that anymore. So Jeff, me and you, Doc, sorry, I know you're a little older, so you've probably had to deal with that.
Yeah.
Our new generation, when they're like, hey, when you turn 40 or whatever it is, you need to go get a colonoscopy.
Is this confirmed or?
Well, I don't know. I know for sure that's a new thing that they have, but also, I mean, me and you are like, we're 20 something. By the time we get to that age where we're supposed to have to get one, it's for sure going to be gone, and we're just going to have to do blood work.
That's awesome. That's hopefully everyone take care of your health. And again, thank you guys for having me.
That's breaking news.
An hour and 15 minutes always goes by fast. And then to the audience too, like I said, the audience that we've built together has been tremendous. And I'm so thankful and grateful to be able to have a career. You know, the media world is always shifting. And the blessing is you guys and myself have always been one step ahead. Videos, podcasts, video podcasts, written content digitally. It's been great to be part of something and to build an audience. But remember, guys, I don't have to do clickbait. I already my audience was bought. Sports Illustrated bought my audience.
Can I ask you, Doc?
I'm riding the wave, baby.
If you're always one step ahead and we were one step ahead of you, does that make us always two steps ahead and you're one step?
Listen, you guys are OGs. I've never I said today, just before at 7:00, I said, one regret I have, I should have did video podcasts in 2019, but I was truly humble. I said, who would look at this grill on a nightly basis and want to interact with it? But I was like, you know what? I now at 47, I'm very confident in who I am and what I'm about. And I can stand up to the haters because the proof's in the pudding. I mean, it's one thing to get a job, but I'm 8 years in and 15-year podcaster. So at this point in time, I can laugh at the haters because I'm still around. It's wild to think about. I might put 15 years on a major network. You never know. You never know what's going to happen. And I credited you guys. You guys got me to do a daily, nightly show, and I'm going to try and enjoy it along the way. And I love the haters. Like I said, the haters get you paid, baby.
There you go. The DOC. Check them out.
What a legend.
Let's go. Let's go. I can't wait for next week.
The one.
Doc, can you? Actually, I'll talk to you off air on this.
Whatever you guys need, baby. I look forward to it.
There you go.
Appreciate you, Doc. And he's gone.
The one, the only, man. He's always there.
Look, his Indy trip here soon. I was going to tell him to book an extra day to hang out with the fellas, which it sounds like we're going to be there when he's there, but it'd be awesome to have Doc in the, downtown there for one extra day instead of one day.
Surprised the Doc doesn't want to hang there, like at least, and watch some of the events and stuff.
He said, obviously he networks a lot, and he goes like where we were. He's in those areas as well. The kind of the bars where all the media and executives and coaches are. Being there longer never hurts. You might as well stay an extra day. I mean, the boys are going to be there all week as well.
Oh, right off, Doc. We know you ain't paying for that.
Yeah, no, Doc's not paying for any of that. That's all free for him. Have him one extra night.
Come on, Doc. Great show today, man. Shout out to the Doc. He always comes through when we need him.
It's the best, man.
We appreciate the hell of him for that. By the way, man, I said this at the beginning of the show, and I want to make sure people understand this. Get your damn merchandise. FishCitySports.com. I mean, we're going to be in Indy. I'm going to be rocking my crunch time gear, when it's suitable.
We actually should put in we should put some orders in for us for Indy.
We got some sweet stuff on the store, man. Go check it out. Hit the subscribe button. By the way, like the stream. I don't know what I forgot to mention. Like the stream. If you haven't liked the stream yet, you're a sicko. Okay, it's free. It takes a second. So like the stream. We'll be live tomorrow, 8 p.m. Be there. Until then, we appreciate that of all of you.
Love you guys.
See ya.